I'm Dr. Duke and we are live from New York. Look, I wrote this book. It's called Back in Action and it's healing back pain through movement. And today I'm going to review with you my entire back in action routine and flexibility movements to see if I can make you a little more comfortable while you're at home. All right, here are the parameters. Every movement is about 5 to 10 seconds. That's it. Then you move on. You could do the movements with me or you can watch this later because then I'm going to upload it to YouTube. All right, let's begin. So I created this routine as a nice way to lubricate the joints inside the spine. Essentially, you put your legs up, or you could start with your feet down and then just kind of press your hip out. And when I do this little motion for like 5 or 10 seconds, it starts to lubricate the socket of the hip. We have synovial fluid in our joints, and it's basically like an oil that lubricates our joints so we don't get so stiff. And when you have back pain, we have interarticular adhesions. If you can't see that move, it's a really good one. It's like an inter-rotation move, and if you have a hip impingement, this will feel really nice of lubricating the joint there. Anyway, so when you do these motions, and now you can take one ankle, put it on the opposite knee, and just kind of pull to the side. And what'll happen is that you may feel like, like a nice pull or even a pop or a click in your back. And that means that you're releasing an adhesion. And an adhesion over time will get so stiff and so tight that ultimately it calcifies, and those are called bone spurs. So for those of you who have had x-rays and MRIs and you have bone spurs inside your spine, they're called osteophytes, and eventually they develop into spinal stenosis. So this is a nice way to kind of prevent that from happening. Then take your legs up like at a tabletop posture and just let them fall to the side. Oh, that feels so good. And you don't hold it, you just move, because if you hold it, now you're stretching. I don't want you to stretch. I want you to wake up the muscles. I want you to lubricate the joints so that way as you start your day, you'll have like a better chance of not feeling so much lower back discomfort. Then put your legs on the ground and let them just kind of twist side to side. Again, these are like very simple movements, 5 to 10 seconds each. And if you find one that feels pretty good, you know what? Go ahead and do it like a little bit longer. A lot of times people like to do like a full spinal twist. I don't really care. This one's pretty good. You can twist side to side. And again, that creates like a nice little motion into the lower back area. Now look, take your hands, touch your feet and lift up. Because if you don't lift up like this and you don't engage your glutes, this is not a fitness class, this is like a back class. And if you have back pain, I'm sorry, but you have to work a little bit. So you squeeze your glutes, engage your core, tighten it up a little bit, and then start marching in place. That way it wakes up the glute medius, it wakes up the glute max and the paraspinal muscles as well. Then go ahead, and as you lift up again, lift that one leg up, and you've seen this in different fitness classes, but you don't need to do it for fitness. You're doing it to wake up the glutes and just fire up the paraspinal muscles. And this will not injure your back. It'll help protect your back. From that position, what I'd like you to do is you bend one knee, put one leg straight, take one hand, put it under your back, take your other hand, put it underneath your back, tighten your stomach, flatten your neck, and just hinge up. And try to maintain this for about 5 to 10 seconds. This is not easy. And then push. Do you want to see that again? You lie on your back. You have one knee bent, one leg straight. That way you take out the hip flexor so it doesn't tug on your spine. Then you take one hand, put it underneath your back. Take your other hand, put it underneath your back. You flatten your neck, you tighten your stomach, lift your elbows, and try to hinge up. Not curl, just hinge. And just try to hold it. And then when you're ready, after about 5 to 10 seconds, push. And it's a really nice way to help you kind of sit up. Then lie on your side. And almost like in a fetal position, just, open up. I gotta be honest, I'm stiff. I've had my own injuries over the years. One as a teenager, pole vaulting. These are called open books. And another one as a young adult in a car accident. So I've had my disc compression and herniations, and I came up with these movements because it lubricates the spine and prevents it from getting so stiff and arthritic. Then take your leg, really pull it to your chest, and anchor it back. So pull it up and all the way back, and that gives a really nice release to the front of the quads. We're not trying to stretch, we're trying to lubricate, get like a little looser, and this will take pressure off of the spine. And now, go into a simple clamshell. I know people know how to do this. It's pretty easy. It wakes up the glute medius, and I'm not a fan. I like it. But I think that if you want to really help yourself, you have to be a little more athletic. So you get into more of a side posture, and then try to get your hips in line with your spine. And then from here, you lift up to a side bridge, thrust your pelvis forward, and then do the clamshell. So watch again. You get in a perfect line, you lift up, and then do the clamshell as you kind of push forward. And again, up, do the clamshell. Whew, that's not so hard, so easy. And then you want to do the other side. You want to open up. Oh, that feels so good. Sometimes I'll even arch my back, and then I'll open up, and that'll give another, just release a little bit higher in my mid-back area. This open book exercise is one of my favorites because it releases tension to the mid to low back area. It's called thoracolumbar spine. And then again, you kind of grab your hip, pull it all the way back. Pull it all the way to your chest, pull it all the way back. 5 to 10 seconds each. That's all that I'm asking for you to do here. And then go back into those clamshells. So on your forearm, lift up, thrust a little forward, and engage that glute medius. The glute medius is very important for stabilizing the back and keeping your hips and pelvis level. So again, up, and just clamshell it open. Then, get onto all fours. And I wouldn't start rounding and arching that everybody likes to do so quickly. I'd rather you just try to shake hands. And then switch. Now the key here is you don't have to be so athletic. You don't have to make it a workout for your core. I just want you to wake up the muscles in your lower back. The paraspinal muscles are the ones that run like railroad tracks and protect your spine. These are movements that wake up those muscles and get them ready so they can protect your back throughout the day. From that position, I want you to then reach down and then reach back. They're called reach backs, for no better term. And again, 5 to 10 seconds. And this is another one of my favorites because it really lubricates the thoracolumbar back. Then switch sides, and then down, and just try to reach to the sky. You know, if you play tennis, if you play golf, any kind of racket sport, that's actually a very good movement to kind of wake you up. Then start doing like the arching and the rounding. The arching, look up, and the round. And sometimes in this round posture, people like to kind of stretch back. I'm personally not a fan because if you have a herniated disc, you're going to take that jelly and you're going to push it backwards and it's going to bulge a little bit further. But if you don't have herniated discs, you just have generalized back soreness, go ahead and be a little organic and kind of stretch out like that. Otherwise, keep it simple. Arch your back and round it. Arch it again and then round. Then neutral is basically the in-between. So you find the in-between and then you kneel. Then you take your stomach and you try to pull it in and you try to flatten, like compress together to really stabilize your back and reach super tall towards the ceiling. Then take one leg forward, tuck your back toes under and push. And that is how you stand up. All right, that's part one. Part two is pretty simple. I like these movements because they're easy to do. So this one is basically called a backstroke. And it's exactly that. You can see you're just kind of moving like you're in the water. And what this does is that it lubricates the spinal joints. It creates like an oscillation of motion to the paraspinal muscles that make it a little more comfortable for you to kind of move around so you're not so stiff. And then after you backstroke, you swim. And then after you swim, you do this motion. It's called angels. You kind of push your hands together, then you reach them back. You round, and then you square it up. You round, and then you square it up. And it takes the shoulder blades, and it kind of pulls them off of the middle back area, and it really releases a lot of back tension. Then, hug yourself. Bend your knees just a little bit, and just kind of turn. Now I want to tell you something. I'm not doing this. Look at my head. My head stays still, my knees are a little bent, and I just turn. Ugh. And this is moving my rib cage off of my low back area. And it's really stiff. But man, when I'm done, I'm so much looser, and I'm not even stretching. I'm lubricating the joints with synovial fluid, and I'm trying to prevent arthritic change. A lot of people get funny with this one because I think that over time you lose that ability to pelvic tilt. So you want to arch your back, and then you want to thrust it. And you want to work on swaying the back and then thrusting it forward. And don't worry if it's a little like a ratchety in motion. Those are the facet joints of the spine that lose their ability to kind of bend and open. And when you do this, it creates motion inside that lower back that feels really good after you do about 5 or 10 seconds worth. Then hold your upper body still and twist the lower body. Now again, I'm not doing this. That says dumb. I'm standing still and my lower body is twisting side to side. So now I'm creating a release from my pelvis to my lower back area. And just twist side to side until you feel like you've had enough, 5 to 10 seconds. And then go ahead and just do a little bit of hip circles. They're called gyros. And then to end, go ahead and just reach. See how I'm grabbing my wrist? Just reach up to the side to kind of bring the rib cage from the Quadratus lumborum off of your iliac crest or your pelvis. And you reach, breathe, reach, and breathe. And that is a very simple back in action routine. What about stretching? All right. Well, I kind of like using an elevation, lying on your back, pulling your knees in towards your chest, and then slowly, pulling it off of the bed, the couch, a tabletop, something. And this is going to release tension to the front of the quad. So again, when you do these stretches, now we're moving into flexibility. I want you to do the stretches 3 sets for 10 seconds each. That's it. This isn't a yoga class. This is a back in action class. This is something which will protect your back and maybe prep you to take your yoga class or prep you to take your boot camp class. Because a lot of people just rely on going to their classes to get fit. But if you don't do this type of routine in the beginning, you're setting yourself up for failure and you're probably going to get injured. That's one stretch. Now watch me here. I'm going to keep my leg down and then my other leg stays up. Woo. And I am going to twist. And this is a very complicated yet very safe motion for the lower back. And it creates a stretch to the quadratus lumborum and the fascia that it attaches to the lumbar spine. Oh, and all the paraspinal muscles at the same time. You want to see that again? Watch. Let's pretend you lay on your side, you take your back leg and let it hang off, and then you try to, twist in that fashion in order to get that really nice long release to your lats, the QLs, and the paraspinals. 3 sets of 10. Then we have to stretch something called the piriformis. Piriformis is a muscle in the glutes, and it's a hip rotator. The best way to do it is a modified pigeon pose. So I'll see if I can demonstrate for you here. You get into a right angle of your knee, you step back, you take that back leg and you bend it, and then you sit into the stretch. And then you can move different directions to target the IT band, the glute medius, and the piriformis. Watch it from this angle. Take your leg, you put it up on an angle, try to keep your knee 90 degrees, take your back leg, bend it, and just kind of lean in. And if you don't feel it, you're doing it wrong. And again, 3 sets, 10 seconds. We can't forget about the hamstrings. So you take your leg, very simple, and you don't do this. You don't round forward. That's terrible for your spine. You want to keep a nice arch in your back. And you just want to hinge forward. I feel it right away to the fascia behind my calf, popliteal fossa of my knee, and to my hamstrings. And then I'll rotate this way, and that'll get into the adductors. Oh, that's a good stretch. I'm going to do it on the other side because it feels good. So I'm going to put my leg up, and I'm just going to flex my toes, and I'm going to arch. Nice. And then again, it's really pulling all the way up through here. You don't need to be super limber. You just need to get a little bit more than what you have right now. Then turn this way, and you'll get more into like the adductors, the inner thigh muscles. Again, 3 sets, about 10 seconds each. Now, another stretch in order to lengthen out the front of the hips, otherwise you end up with a sway back, is a lunge. So you lunge forward, you take your leg, you put it up on the bench, and you can stay here or you can squeeze your glute to kind of engage, and that'll release tension in the front. And you'll grab your foot, and then you get back into that lunge. You're not down here, you're kind of up like this. And if you flex the foot, it makes it more of like a natural motion as if you were running or walking. So, I'll show you from this angle. You get into a lunge. You get your back leg on top of the elevated surface. And then sometimes people will try to grab and they can't get it, and then they cramp. I know you're out there. So when that happens, you simply just put your leg up and try to stretch out that hamstring like we did earlier. And that just means that you're really tight in the hamstring. So let's go back into it. And if you need to, you could cheat. You could put your leg up and just kind of grab it first, then go back into that lunge, and then you look like you're a superstar. And you hold that position, and again, you're not here, you're trying to, stay up. And if you're one of those people who have a really big sway in the lower back and you feel like it's cramping here, then that stretch is not the one for you. Do the one that we previously did when you were lying on your back. Lastly, I like to stretch out the Quadratus lumborum. That's the hip hikers, is when they're tight, they will hike the hip up. Makes you look like you have like either a long or short leg. Very rarely do we actually have a structural short leg. It's mostly functional. And all these movements that I'm showing you and the release that you'll get to the spine will correct that shortness, usually. So you put your legs nice and wide, you put your arm over your head, you step behind yourself, that gives a nice stretch to the QL, the IT band, and then if you breathe in, oh, it'll kind of release the diaphragm from that area and make you feel like you could take a breath again. All right, so then again, you kind of lean to the side, so it kind of lifts the rib cage up. Take that leg, step behind yourself, and then breathe in. Or exaggerate it and pull, like pull that wrist up. Oh. And that's another way of releasing tension on the back. As we walk around and sit around, our backs compress. So how do you decompress the back? Like how do you actually open it up? One way to do it is to use that same elevation where you kind of lean into a tabletop and you dangle your legs from the side. Maybe I'll show you, I'll use a chair. I'll move it over here. You go into a chair position and you just kind of lean and let your legs dangle. Whew, I can feel it releasing already in my mid-back and in my low back. And with this position, you try to hold these decompression postures for about 6 sets of 10 seconds. And then when you release, you tighten your stomach. Don't just kind of stand up. Tighten your stomach. Oh, and then stand up again. Because you just had a moment where your spine, released pressure. Our spine is pressurized, just like blood pressure. And when it's high, it's bad for you. So when you go into a position like this, you lean, you let your legs dangle. It's like taking a blood pressure pill. You're really releasing pressure on the lower back and you're preventing the discs from compressing and becoming degenerative. Tighten your core, stand up. 6 times you do that. Another thing you can do, if you have something that you can hang from, doesn't everybody have a pull-up bar? Just kind of grab and then let your legs dangle from here. It's hard to hold this position, but just remember, when you're ready to let go, don't just kind of jump down to the floor. Tighten your stomach, and then come out of it because your spine is lengthening. And again, you just kind of hold it. You could do a pull-up if you want. I mean, it's a pull-up bar. That was silly, but I just had to throw that in. Look, what about sleeping postures? What do you do to get comfortable when your back hurts? My favorite postures is this. Take a bunch of pillows. You see how many I have here? And you lie on your back. And you just stay there. And I have to tell you, right here, right now, that feels so good. Another way, if you find that sleeping on your back isn't so comfortable, go onto your side. One pillow is for your head. Another pillow goes in between your thighs and your knees. And the other one protects you from kind of rolling over. You just kind of hug it. Oh, this feels good too. And if you have back pain, which is asymmetrical, let's say it's on the right or on the left, whatever side is hurting, that's the side that faces the ceiling. Okay? So this is another great position. The worst posture you could possibly have while sleeping is this. Whatever you do, do not sleep on your stomach. It kinks the neck, it over-exaggerates the arch in your back. I mean, it's okay if you want to stretch in this position. This is actually nice if you have a disc injury. But you don't want to stay in this position for 6 to 8 hours. That's just going to jam the joints of the spine and really create irritation. Lastly, what happens if you have sciatica? All right, let's bring back my trusty little chair. If you have sciatica, sciatica simply means that you have irritation to a nerve in your lower back that runs down the leg. So one thing that we can do, whether you had a disc herniation and you had surgery, there's probably scar tissue there. Or maybe you had a disc herniation and you didn't have surgery, never did anything for it, you have scar tissue in there again. Or let's say you just bulged the disc. As it starts to heal, there's a spider web of adhesions that start to irritate that nerve, and it creates a burning, numbness, tingling down into the leg. So if you straighten your leg out, well, let me see if I can really make this better for everybody. You sit up tall, you straighten your leg. One more time. There we go, and you flex your foot. Then you arch your head back, pull the leg in, round forward, and now watch me here. Ooh, you straighten that leg while you're bent forward. And if you have sciatica, trust me, you're gonna feel this. And then when you go back, it releases the nerve. And then when you bend the knee, it releases it again. And when you bend forward, it starts to stretch that sciatic nerve. And then, woo, that's really gonna kind of pull. It's like flossing. It's called nerve glides. It's like flossing the debris between your teeth. You're flossing that nerve away from the herniated disc or bone spur. And when you do this, this is something that you don't do for like a half hour, but you should do it several times a day for about 1 minute every time you do it. So you flex your foot, you round it down, you release it, and you release. Even if you do it wrong, you'll do something right by doing this and repeating this motion over and over. Lastly, talking about sitting, you know, we think we start out pretty nice like this, and then after a while, we just sort of end up like that. And you're like, oh, so sore in my back. Avoid the temptation to kind of round forward further. Because what this will do is that your joints are ready to open in the back, and your disc will herniate backwards with this motion. And then you'll stand up and go, ooh, like, oh, what did I do? The best thing to do after a long period of time of sitting is to literally stand up straight, tighten your stomach, make a couple fists, put it behind your back, and just arch backwards. And that will release tension on that lower back. The worst thing to do is to try to touch your toes, especially in the morning. Most back injuries happen in the morning because when you're sleeping, the intervertebral discs go out drinking like at a bar, and they fill up with fluid. So when you wake up, you're really, pretty filled with fluid. And when you bend forward, oh, that's when like your back can go out. So when you wake up in the morning, best again, make a fist, tighten your stomach, and just try to arch backwards. And that kind of recirculates and redistribution of the pressure within the spine. Lastly, if it's sharp or burning, put ice on. If you feel like it's a sore, achy, whatever, you could use heat. But if it just happened, let's say you were in an exercise class and later in the day your back's getting a little sore, trust me on this, don't use heat, use ice, because it's just an acute expression of a chronic issue. All right, guys, I'm Dr. Duke, and I'll load this on YouTube later today.